Avatar 2 just passed $2 billion in the box office. And this might seem really surprising because if you look for revenues of Avatar, they seem to agree that it's not a very good movie. The main criticism they have is that the plot is pretty much identical to the first movie. In the first movie, we have Jake Sully who goes to this tribe of Na'vi and he has to learn their ways and he has to adapt to this new world and fight the humans. And in this movie, it's pretty much the same, except that now is Jake Sully and his family, and they join this new water tribe, and they have to learn their ways, and they have to fight the humans. And so, yeah, it's pretty much the plot is the same thing. And also, the characters don't really go through character arcs. There's a little bit, I guess, in the fact that Jake's wife, I forget her name. I don't remember the name of any of the characters in this movie except for Jake. Um, his wife doesn't like the human kid, and the human kid has something that he wants to be and be. And the bad guy at first he is really cruel, but as the movie goes on, he gets a little bit more compassionate. He in the end he cares about like his kid and he wants them not to kill him. So there are, but that's not enough. I mean, those are just like the start of their character arcs, and it feels like they are gonna be finished in a third movie in the next 10 years when Avatar 3 comes out. Maybe then there will be payoffs to all of these setups. But in this movie, there is just pretty much the same plot. There's very little character development. And so many people are surprised, like, why is this movie making so much money? But I know why. And it's not because audiences are shallow and they'll just eat any garbage that Hollywood feeds them. It's because the goal of these movies is not to tell a good story. It is to show us a cool world. World building is the whole point of these movies, and audiences respond to that. Okay, so here's the thing. I think that the best time in the life of James Cameron is when he was filming the scenes in Titanic when it was sinking. Because he just loves the ocean and the biology of the ocean and all that stuff. And so he wanted to capture some of that sense of amazement and wonder. And that is the reason he created the world of Pandora. Even in the first movie, that it wasn't about the ocean, there were many elements of marine life in this world. As many things can shine in the darkness, and the fact that you touch them and they retract into their shells or stuff like that. All of that reminds you of documentaries about oceans that you have seen, right? And so that's the sense of wonder that James Cameron wanted to capture. And I think he did that really, really well. And there are so many other elements of world building. So for example, like I've always wondered, like, how is it possible that creatures in this planet can connect their nervous system? How did that evolve? But I think that the answer is pretty easy and honestly pretty cool. So we are told that all the trees in this planet are connected, right? Electrically. They can send electrical signals between each other. And these made them work like neurons in a giant brain. And this being has developed consciousness that is intelligent. And they call it like what? Metekaya or something. Okay, I forget the name of that. Let me Google it. Like the name, Avatar to Goddess, Awa. So that's the Awa thing. And so I think that this Awa being, like, somehow is able to influence the life in this planet, and that she has been directing the evolution of life in this planet for millions of years. And that's why so many creatures can connect their nervous system. That they didn't evolve naturally. Awa made it evolve. And okay, I'm gonna talk more about that later because I think that Awa is a really cool concept, honestly, and I think it's gonna be more relevant in the third movie. But the point is that the point of these movies is just that, to show you a cool world and that you can get lost in. And the narrative was secondary, so it didn't matter as much. So the narrative, all it had to do was to be good enough. It didn't have to be great. So as long as the narrative was good enough, the movies would accomplish their goal and audiences would respond to it and enjoy it. And that's really cool because I think that the Avatar movies prove that audiences, that people in general like world building for world building's sake. That otherwise they wouldn't be watching a movie with such a simple, forgettable plot. They enjoy these movies. They watch them because just they love the world building. Maybe they haven't like sit down and reason about it like we nerds do. But I think that that's what's going on. Because there are many movies with similar plots and they are not as successful because the world is not as cool. Now, of course, world building and narrative are not mutually exclusive. You can excel at both. And one example of that is the original Avatar, The Last Airbender. That show has a world building unmatched by pretty much every movie, video game, and book. It's incredibly in-depth and realistic. And it has a narrative that is so compelling with characters that you love. So it shows that you can excel at both, or you can excel at one, and as long as you do the other one okay, it will still result in a very good work of art, as these Avatar movies by James Cameron. And in that sense, even the characters are well written, not in the sense of the narrative, but in the sense of the world building. Like this human kid who wants to be a Navi, this Navi girl who has like, she is somehow connected to Awa and she seems to have epilepsy, but of course she doesn't have epilepsy. And they are going to tell her not to connect to the tree. And in the end, in the climax of the third act of the third movie, she's going to finally connect to Awa and she's going to Deus Ex Machina the whole thing. But those two characters are really good in the sense that they make you feel this world so much more. This world is better because it has characters like them in them. Regardless of what character arc they go through, the concept of these characters is really good. And that's pretty much it. Well, no, actually, another really cool element of world building in terms of the characters are all the humans who stayed and are living with the Navis. I want to see more of those guys. That's such a cool concept, and the movies don't explore it enough, but it's so fucking cool. So overall, I think the success of these movies is really good news for world building, because world building has struggled for a long time to be appreciated by the masses. It's pretty much just something that hardcore fans enjoy, right? But it doesn't have to be that way, and I think one of the best examples of that is Ursula Le Guin. Ursula Le Guin wrote many incredible books, including one, the name of the world is Forest, which is just a much better version of Avatar. That one excels in world building and narrative. Perhaps I'll make a video about that one day. But she made many books and short stories and even poems that are just like pieces of world building, just showing you cultures. Like this is the songs these people speak, the legends they tell, how they see the world, stuff like that. And she just develops these cultures, and that's it. That's a work of art. There's no narrative attached to them. There's no grander story. The whole point is just the world building. And I always liked that, but I always thought, man, there's no way people will ever enjoy this. Well, most people will ever enjoy this. This is just some very niche thing. And now I don't think that. I think it could be possible to make these movies with very simple narratives that just focus on showing you an extremely cool world. Yeah, and I hope we get more of that. I hope that happens. It certainly, James Cameron has proved it is possible. So let's just hope that more people take up the challenge. And they do it because it's clear that audiences crave something like this. They don't just enjoy it. They crave these kind of movies that are all about world building. And so, yeah, I think we should start giving it to them. It seems like good business. So movie studios, get on that. Well, and finally, let me tell you what I think is going to happen in the last movie of Avatar. So this Awa being, this collective consciousness of all the trees of Pandora, she's pretty smart. Like, I think that she's just been playing like pentadimensional chess with the humans. And I think that her end goal is to have the humans living in Pandora in harmony with the Navis. And because I think that in a way, Ewa wants to add another species to her collection. And think about it. If humans manage to work together with Ewa, they could take her trees and plant them in other planets. And in this way, the consciousness of Ewa would spread through the cosmos. And at the same time, humans could live on all of these planets ruled by little Ewas. And it would be a mutually beneficial thing, right? Humans spread Ewa to other planets, and Ewa like rules the biology and the weather of these planets to make them good for humans or for all other forms of life. But the point is that in order for that to happen, humans need to be brought to their knees. They need to be brought to the negotiating table. Like Ewa needs humans to respect her. And I think that's what's been going on. I think that maybe at some point in the movies they are going to reveal that Ewa could have done something to just get rid of the humans from the start, but she didn't. Because one, she doesn't want to. She wants to avoid death. Like she loves life. She's like a goddess of life, right? And second, she wanted to make a deal with the humans. I think that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be like a little bit Lovecraftian, because Ewa is just such. It's like Ewa has been guiding the evolution of species in an entire planet for millions of years. We cannot conceive of a being like that. It's communicating with such a different consciousness would be extremely challenging. But I think that's where these stories are heading, with this alliance between like humans learning to work together with Ewa, and that it turns out that Ewa was just like pulling the strings all along to make all of this happen. And if that's where the movies are going, if that's the idea that James Cameron has, it's gonna be pretty freaking cool. Oh, also, I should tell you, have you noticed that in all of the Avatar movies, Jake Sully is telling this story to someone? It's always the case. He's narrating this, right? And he's telling this story to someone. In the first movie, like they make you think that these are just the recordings of the diary he has. But I think it's more than that. I think in the third movie, we are going to find out what's going on. I think maybe what happens is that eventually maybe he tells this story to Ewa itself. And I don't know, Ewa needed his perspective or something. I don't know. Or maybe he's telling this story to one of his grandchildren or to a human ambassador. Or I don't know. Or maybe to a human biographer that is writing a book about the story of how humans made a deal with Ewa, right? Or something like that. And it's gonna be really cool when we finally know who he's been talking to for these two movies. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Avatar movie.